You wanted a vacation without me. That is what I told him in the lobby of my own resort. I said it quietly. No anger, no trembling, just a statement carved from 66 years of being underestimated, the kind of sentence that makes a man stop in his tracks because he suddenly senses that the world is not arranged the way he assumed. 10 minutes earlier, the lobby of Coral Bay Retreat had been its usual self, ceiling fans turning in a slow rhythm, a faint lemon scent from the polished floors, guests drifting in and out with beach towels on their shoulders. I was reviewing occupancy reports on my tablet while the general manager, Rosa Delgado, updated me on the afternoon arrivals. Then the glass doors spun open with a gust of heat and perfume. Luggage wheels rattled across the stone floor. A bright, careless laugh echoed. I looked up. My daughter Claire walked in, wearing a new sundress, her eyes lit with the excitement of a vacation she had dreamed about for weeks. Behind her came her husband Nathan, smiling like a man stepping into a world he believed he deserved. His parents, Gloria and Gordon Cooper, followed with the stiff confidence of people who expect others to greet them first. None of them saw me. I was standing behind the front desk with Rosa reviewing a maintenance request. They were too busy admiring the chandelier and the wall of glass overlooking the water. Nathan tapped the marble counter with 2 fingers, as if claiming his territory. Reservation for Cooper. Party of 4, he said. 2 oceanfront suites, top floor. Rosa kept her professional posture. Of course. Your booking is here. May I have the card you used to reserve the rooms? Nathan slid his platinum card forward with a flourish that made Gordon grin. Gloria leaned closer to Rosa and whispered, "We heard this place is exclusive. We want the special treatment." She said it in the tone of someone placing an order, not making a request. Claire turned her head toward the rest of the lobby, maybe looking for a concierge or a bellhop. Her eyes landed on me. For a single second, her face froze. Surprise, confusion, then guilt rising like a wave beneath her skin. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she asked. Nathan frowned and followed her gaze. He blinked twice. "Mrs. Marsh, did you follow us here?" "Seriously, this is a bit much." His voice sharpened. "Claire, I told you she would do something like this." I could feel Rosa stiffen beside me. Jamal, our head of security, stepped closer from the side hall, not in an aggressive way, just present. Calm, observant. Gloria placed a hand on her chest. "This is uncomfortable. We came here for family time. We invited everyone important. We needed a break." I closed the tablet and placed it on the desk. The motion was slow, deliberate, the way you might fold a letter that contains a truth you have postponed for too long. "Rosa," I said, "would you please clarify things so our guests understand where they are standing?" Rosa glanced at me, then at them. Her voice was steady. "Mrs. Marsh is not a guest. She owns Coral Bay Retreat." The sentence dropped into the lobby like a stone, breaking the surface of still water. A soft wave of silence followed. Even the ceiling fans seemed to slow. Nathan let out a short laugh. "No, that cannot be right. Claire, is this a joke?" Claire shook her head. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She was seeing me in a different light. Not Mom in an old cardigan serving dinner on chipped porcelain plates. Not Mom transferring a little money when they needed help. A different version. One she had never imagined. I stepped forward. The afternoon light from the tall windows stretched across the floor, catching the silver edges of my hair. My reflection appeared faintly in the polished counter. I saw myself the way strangers saw me here, a woman who belonged in this place, not an outsider peeking in. "You wanted a vacation without me?" I said again, softer this time. "Congratulations. You are still on your own. The only difference is that this time, the bill is not coming to my house." Jamal coughed behind his hand in an attempt to hide a smile. A couple sitting on the lobby sofa pretended to read their magazines, but were clearly watching the spectacle unfold. Real life always travels faster than fiction, especially when pride and money are involved. Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Why would you hide something like this? Why pretend to be poor? You cook dinner on those old plates. You still drive that tiny car. I looked at him the way you might look at a child who has never paid his own mortgage. Simple living is not poverty, Nathan. It is a choice. One that allowed me to buy this place without owing anyone a cent. Gloria bristled. Well, we are still guests, and we expect our oceanfront suites. Rosa clasped her hands politely. You will have the rooms you paid for. The upgrade you requested this morning is not available. We emailed notice of temporary closures for renovation last week. Nathan's face turned a shade darker. We never got any email. Rosa tapped the screen. It was read at 8:12 p.m. on Mrs. Cooper's phone. The comedy in their expressions was almost too perfect. Gordon scratched his head. Gloria insisted she never saw the message. Nathan blamed hotel technology. Claire stared at her sandals, wishing the floor would open and swallow her. Something in my chest loosened and sank as if a shelf I had spent years building finally gave way. My hands stayed steady on the desk, but inside I felt the quiet ache of realizing your own child can stand 2 feet away and still not see you. Mom Claire whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never asked. Because every time I tried to explain my work, you were too tired or too busy or too wrapped up in Nathan's plans. Because you saw my modest house and my worn kitchen towels and assumed they were signs of limitation rather than preference. But I did not say any of that, not yet. Instead, I said, there are many things you do not know about me, Claire. This is simply the first one you have noticed." She looked like she might cry. I wanted to reach for her hand. I wanted to remind her that I raised her with love, not resentment. But she had chosen to leave me out of the vacation. She had allowed Nathan to say I was exhausting. She had added the words that cut the deepest, "We need a break," from her. So I kept my hands at my sides. Nathan's voice rose again. "This is ridiculous. You are ruining our trip." "No," I replied. "I am simply not funding it." The lobby lights flickered as the automatic shades adjusted to the late afternoon sun. A warm golden glow touched the edges of the marble. I felt a memory tug at me, my kitchen table back in Orlando. The porcelain plate with its thin gold rim, the tiny chip on the edge that I always kept turned away from guests. So many dinners, so many moments, so many small sacrifices that no one ever counted. In my pocket, the first motel key I ever owned pressed against my palm, a reminder of where the real story began. Not in the poverty Nathan imagined, but in the quiet strength that built something from nothing. Before the tension could thicken further, I turned to Rosa. "Please continue the check-in process. Charge everything to their card on file. If they need assistance with local transportation, Jamal can help." Rosa nodded. "Of course, Mrs. Marsh." I picked up my tablet and began walking toward the administrative hallway. After a few steps, I stopped and looked back at Claire. She looked small, unsure, caught between her husband's anger and her mother's dignity. I gave her a gentle nod. Not forgiveness yet, not distance either, just a nod that meant the story was not finished, not for us. "Enjoy your vacation," I said. Then I walked away. Quiet, steady, carrying a porcelain past and a key-shaped future in the same hand. I always thought silence was peaceful, a place to rest, a place to breathe. That afternoon in my office, it felt different, heavy, dense, like the kind of silence that appears right before a storm decides which direction it will break. Through the frosted glass wall, I could hear the faint rumble of luggage being dragged across the lobby tiles. Nathan's agitated voice cut through the quiet. Claire's softer one followed, trying and failing to calm him. Rosa's steady tone wrapped around their chaos like a safety net. Guests pretending not to listen were listening anyway. A vacation exposes people. A family vacation exposes all the cracks beneath the surface. I placed the motel key on the edge of my desk. Its metal was warm from my palm. The tiny number 1 engraved on it had faded over the years, but I could still feel every ridge with my fingertip. My beginning had been small. 1 room, 1 building, 1 chance. People thought my life was made of limitations. They never saw the part built with discipline, hours, calculations, setbacks, days where I washed sheets myself to save money, nights where I ate leftovers on the same porcelain plate Nathan loved to mock. A soft knock pulled me back. Mrs. Marsh Rosa said, stepping in, "They have gone to their rooms. It is calm for now." "Thank you," I replied. "How did Claire look?" Rosa hesitated, confused, embarrassed, like someone who suddenly realized the map she was following was the wrong map. I nodded. She did not mean to hurt me, not intentionally. She just learned to shrink me the same way her husband does. Rosa folded her arms gently. People repeat what they see, until someone shows them a different pattern. Her words sat with me. Rosa had grown up with 3 younger brothers. Their father left early, their mother worked nights. Rosa learned leadership before she could spell the word. She knew something about breaking patterns. "Thank you," I said again. She smiled. "Always. And I will keep an extra eye on their account. I do not want them claiming anything was mischarged." "They will," I said, "but numbers speak clearly." Rosa left the room and the silence settled again. Outside the window, the ocean breathed against the shore, calm, rhythmic, unaffected by human drama. My phone buzzed, a text from Jamal. "Everything okay in your office?" Nathan tried to follow, but I stopped him. He insisted he needed to have a word with you. I replied, "Thank you. Keep boundaries firm." Boundaries. The word felt strange in my mouth, like a language I should have learned decades ago. With Claire and Nathan, I had always answered on the first ring, driven across town at midnight with soup or checks, rearranged my own bills so theirs were paid first. I kept expecting a thank you that never really came, a moment when they would say, "You have done enough." It never arrived. Instead, the more I gave, the smaller I became in their eyes. The door clicked again. This time it was Claire. She stepped inside slowly, as if entering a room she no longer recognized. "Mom, can we talk?" I gestured to the chair across from me. She sat without looking up. Her fingers twisted the strap of her handbag. Her breathing wavered. I did not know she said. About any of this, the resort, the business, the money. "Why did you never tell me?" I leaned back, keeping my voice level. "When would you have listened?" Her eyes flickered with guilt. "I would have." "You were busy," I said. "Busy proving yourself to Nathan. Busy making sure his family accepted you. Busy trying to fit into a life that looked polished, but never felt steady." She pressed her lips together. She knew I was not wrong. "Mom, I am sorry we did not invite you," she said. "Nathan said you would make things heavy. He said you always worry, that you never relax. I thought a trip without pressure would help us reconnect. Then why say you needed a break from me?" I asked, "instead of saying you needed time for yourselves." Claire flinched at her own words being spoken aloud. "I did not mean it like that, but you said it," I replied, "and words reveal the truth people are not brave enough to admit directly." Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. "Nathan said you were fragile, that you would not take it well." "Fragile," I repeated. The word landed like a stone. "Is that what you think I am?" She looked at the key on my desk. I do not know what to think anymore. I picked up the key, turning it so the light glinted off the metal. This was the first room I ever owned. Before you were born, before I knew how to manage a business, before people started assuming I had nothing because I lived simply. Claire leaned closer. "Why did you keep living like that? You could have bought a bigger house. You could have traveled. You could have done so much." "Because I did not build my life to show it," I said. "I built it to survive, to stay independent, to ensure no one could take from me what I worked for." A knock interrupted us. Jamal poked his head in. "Sorry to disturb. There's a small issue with the Cooper's card. It was declined for the upgrade request." Claire covered her face with her hand. "Oh no." I inhaled slowly. Handle it the same as any guest, Jamal. He nodded and disappeared. Claire groaned. This is humiliating. For you, I said gently, or for them? She wiped her cheeks. Both. Silence settled between us, but it was different this time. No crossed arms, no eyes darting to the door. Claire just sat there, shoulders dropped, fingers still like someone finally too tired to pretend. Mom, she said softly, I do not want to lose you. Something tender shifted in me, but I kept my tone steady, then stopped treating me like someone already lost. She broke down crying, the quiet kind, the kind that comes from recognizing your own part in a wound. I let her cry, not as punishment, as release. When she calmed, she looked at me with new eyes, eyes that saw more than the old dresses and the chipped porcelain plates, eyes that noticed the strength she had forgotten I had. I want to make things right, she whispered. You will have to learn how I said. Small steps, real steps. She nodded through shaky breaths. I will. The intercom buzzed. Rosa's voice came through. Mrs. Marsh. There is an investor from Tampa on the line asking about our expansion plans. Should I transfer the call? Not now, I said. Tell him I will call back. Claire blinked. Investors. Expansion. Mom. How big is this business? Big enough to be taken seriously, small enough to stay humble? Her mouth parted slightly. The world she thought she knew was rearranging itself piece by piece. I stood and walked to the window. The ocean shimmered gold under the sliding sun, a reminder that time moves forward whether we notice or not. Claire. I said, turning back to her, you and Nathan will need a plan, not just for this trip, for your life, for your finances, for the way you treat people. Her shoulders slumped. Nathan will not like that. Then you will need to decide if Nathan's approval is worth the cost. She did not answer. The question was too large to fit inside a single afternoon. She rose slowly. Can I see you again tonight? Yes, I said. We will talk after dinner. She hesitated. I love you, Mom. I nodded. I know, but love must be practiced, not assumed. She left the room quietly. When the door closed, I looked down at the key in my hand again. The metal was cool now, solid, steady, like the truth. Outside, somewhere down the hall, I heard Nathan raising his voice again, the beginning of another storm. But this time, I did not shrink from it. This time I had the key. The elevator hummed as it carried me to the top floor. I wanted a moment to breathe before facing whatever chaos Nathan was stirring upstairs. The afternoon sun spilled through the elevator's glass back panel, reflecting over the ocean in long golden strokes. It reminded me of evenings in my old kitchen in Orlando. Same color, different life. When the door slid open, the quiet hallway greeted me with a faint scent of linen and citrus. Our housekeeping staff always took pride in that detail, clean enough to feel calm, but never sterile, real, human. That was important to me. Halfway down the hall, I heard the muffled rise and fall of voices. Nathan's tone was easy to recognize, sharp, defensive, accusing. Claire's was softer, weighed down by everything she had learned in my office. Gloria and Gordon's voices floated under his occasionally adding fuel without understanding the fire. I walked slowly. Calmness is its own kind of armor. When I reached their suite, the door was slightly open. Jamal stood off to the side, arms folded, keeping watch without intruding. They have been arguing for 20 minutes, he murmured, mostly blaming each other. Has anyone thrown anything I asked? Gloria threw a sandal, he said, but not at anyone, just upward. Very dramatic. Despite everything, I smiled. I knocked lightly and pushed the door wider. 4 heads snapped toward me at once. Nathan stood in the center of the room, his hands on his hips. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, eyes red. Gloria hovered by the minibar. Gordon paced near the window like a man preparing to complain to someone in authority. Unfortunately for him, that someone was me. "What are you doing here?" Nathan demanded. "This is our room." "Your room," I said gently, "in my building." His nostrils flared. "We did not come here for a lecture." "I am not here to lecture," I said. "I am here because Jamal informed me that you were attempting to leave the floor to confront me earlier. That will not happen. If you need to talk to me, you do it with calm, not noise." "This is ridiculous," Gloria muttered. I stepped inside. The room was exactly as we designed it years ago. Soft, sand-colored walls, ocean blue throw pillows, a framed illustration of a single porcelain plate with a gold rim painted by a local artist. I chose it myself for the top-floor suites. I liked the symbolism. Fragile things can survive if they are handled with care. Nathan followed my gaze and scoffed. "Even your art is pretentious." "No," I replied. "It is disciplined." He took a step closer. "Why did you keep this from us? Why hide that you own a resort, that you have money, that you built a business? Why did you assume I did not?" I asked. He froze. The question disarmed him more than I expected. "You judged everything by the surface," I continued. "By my small house, my simple clothes, my old car. You mistook modesty for failure." "That is not fair," he said. "It is accurate." Gordon stopped pacing. "Look, maybe we said some things we did not mean. Everyone speaks rashly sometimes." "I did not," Gloria said quickly. "I meant every word. We needed a break. She is dramatic, overly emotional. She makes everything complicated." I turned my head toward her slowly. "Gloria, I have spent years being polite to you. Do not confuse civility with weakness." Her lips pressed together, offended and uncertain at the same time. Nathan tried a different tactic. "You ambushed us in the lobby. That was uncalled for." "I was standing there before you walked in," I said. "I did not plan your embarrassment. You planned your vacation." Claire lifted her head. "Nathan, please stop. You are making it worse." "I am not the one making it worse," he snapped. I watched Claire's flinch, small, silent, the kind that happens often enough to leave a mark. I sat down on the armchair near the window. "Let us talk clearly. You booked a vacation. You chose not to invite me. That was your right." The hurt came not from the decision, but from the words that followed. Nathan rolled his eyes. "Here we go. You told Claire I was exhausting," I said. "And Claire said she needed a break from me." Claire's face crumpled. "Mom, I am sorry." "You apologized already," I said softly. "This is not about repeating it. This is about understanding it." "What does that even mean?" Nathan scoffed. "It means your marriage is built on pleasing other people's expectations," I said calmly, "and the cost is honesty. Claire has been bending herself into something she is not just to keep peace with your family." "That is not true," he shot back. "It is very true," Claire whispered. Nathan turned to her. "So now you are taking her side." "There are no sides," she said, "just truth." The room went still. Gordon cleared his throat. "We should go get a drink. Cool off." "No," Claire said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "We are not running away." Gloria scoffed. "Listen to her. One conversation with her mother and suddenly she thinks she is wise." Claire looked at me. I nodded once, a signal that she could stand her ground. She took a deep breath. "Mom deserved respect," she said. "We did not give it to her. We took advantage of her kindness. We acted like she owed us something." "She does owe us," Nathan said. "She is family." "No," Claire said. "Family is not an ATM." Nathan's jaw tightened. I saw the truth land unwanted but undeniable. He pointed at me. "This is what you wanted," turning her against me. "I did not turn her," I said. She simply opened her eyes. He let out a frustrated sound and kicked the leg of the coffee table. It wobbled but did not tip. Jamal stepped forward from the doorway, his posture firm but calm. "Mr. Cooper," he warned, "please lower your voice and do not damage property." Nathan glared at him. "This is a joke." "Not at all," I said. "It is a boundary." The words seemed to sting him. Boundaries had never been part of his vocabulary. Claire stood. "Nathan, I want to talk to Mom tonight. Alone." He stared at her as if she had betrayed him personally. "You cannot be serious." "I am," she said. "I need clarity. I need space to think." He looked around the room, searching for someone to back him. Neither Gloria nor Gordon spoke. For once, silence was not his weapon. It was his consequence. I rose from my chair. "I will leave you to settle in. Dinner is at 7. Claire, you can meet me in the garden afterward." She nodded. I walked toward the door. Jamal moved aside to let me pass. But before I stepped out, I paused and spoke without turning back. Vacations reveal character, but pressure reveals truth. Think about what has been revealed today. Then I left the room, calm, upright, carrying the motel key in my pocket like a compass, pointing toward everything still ahead. By the time the sun began dropping behind the palm trees, the resort had shifted into its evening rhythm. Lights along the garden path glowed a soft amber. The ocean breeze carried hints of grilled citrus from the outdoor kitchen where our chef prepared the nightly menu. Guests moved toward the dining terrace in loose patterns, relaxed and unaware of the tension occupying one particular table. 7 o'clock, dinner. I arrived early and chose a corner seat facing the entrance. Years of running a business had trained me to sit where I could see people's reactions before they saw mine. The motif painting a second porcelain plate, this one cracked, but mended with gold, hung above my table. I liked that one even more than the original. Imperfections made honest things stronger. Rosa approached. "Do you want me to seat the Coopers far away from you or closer so you can monitor them?" "Neither," I said. "Seat them wherever is natural. Let the night carry itself." Rosa nodded and slipped away. A few minutes later, Claire arrived alone. She paused at the entrance, saw me, and walked over. Her dress was simple, blue cotton slightly wrinkled. She looked less like someone on vacation and more like someone carrying the weight of a decision she had not yet made. "Mom," she said softly, "I did not want to be late." "You are right on time," I said. She sat across from me. The candle between us flickered. She looked around the terrace, taking in the relaxed families, the couples laughing, the clinking of silverware. For a moment she looked as if she wished she were one of them instead of caught in the middle of her own turmoil. "I needed space," she said. "After all that yelling upstairs." "I know," I replied. "Your voice gets lost when Nathan gets loud." Her gaze dropped to the tablecloth. "It has been like that for a while." I waited. Silence can open doors if you let it. "Mom," she continued, "I do not want you to think I chose Nathan over you. I did not. At least I did not mean to. Intentions matter," I said gently. "But patterns matter more." She winced. "I know." Before she could continue, a staff member approached with menus. Claire murmured a distracted thank you. As soon as he left, she said, "I want to understand you better. Everything you built, everything you hid. I thought you were struggling all these years, that you were barely getting by. You thought that because I let you," I said. I did not correct you. Sometimes silence is a shield. Sometimes it is a test. A test, she repeated, to see who sees me without decoration, to see who values me without price tags. Her face softened in a way that told me she finally understood the kind of loneliness that comes from being misjudged by your own child. The Coopers arrived then, loud, unsettled. Nathan walked in first jaw set, forcing confidence he did not feel. Gloria followed, already annoyed that no one leapt up to greet her. Gordon looked exhausted, though whether from travel or family drama I could not tell. They spotted Claire and froze. Claire's shoulders stiffened. Nathan flashed a smile that did not reach his eyes. "We should sit closer to the view," Gloria declared, pointing to the far end of the terrace. Rosa intercepted them with impeccable timing. "This way, please. We have a beautiful table reserved for your party." Claire inhaled. "Mom, I do not want tonight to turn into a scene." "Then we will not let it," I said. She nodded and straightened her posture. Dinner began quietly. We ordered 2 simple dishes, grilled snapper, Steamed vegetables. Nothing extravagant. Just food that tasted like clean effort. Claire kept glancing over her shoulder toward Nathan's table. He was already frustrated. The server had politely informed him that several premium items were unavailable due to renovation constraints. In truth, they were available. I simply instructed the kitchen earlier that certain items would not be offered to guests with disruptive behavior, a boundary disguised as policy. Mom Claire whispered, "Do you ever get tired of being strong?" "Yes," I said. "But I get more tired of being dismissed." Her throat tightened. She turned her glass slowly between her fingers. "I should have defended you sooner." "You are defending me now," I said. "Growth rarely begins at the right time. It begins at the necessary time." She opened her mouth to reply but stopped when Jamal walked over. "Mrs. Marsh," he murmured, "there may be an issue." "What kind of issue?" I asked. "Mr. Cooper is upset about a service charge. He is raising his voice at the server." Claire closed her eyes. "Of course he is." I stood. "Stay here." When I approached their table, I saw Nathan leaning forward, finger pointed at a young server named Leo. Leo was 19, working his first job and trying his best not to crumble under Nathan's tone. "No one told me about a service charge," Nathan snapped. "You people are trying to squeeze every penny out of us." "It is standard across the resort," Leo said quietly. "We applied it to all guests." Nathan scoffed. "You expect me to believe that?" I stepped beside Leo. "You can believe it," I said. Nathan turned, his irritation sharpening when he saw me. "Of course, here to embarrass us again." "I am here," I said calmly, "to prevent you from embarrassing yourself." Gloria gasped. "How dare you speak to him like that?" "Easily," I replied. "Leo is an employee. You will not raise your voice at him. Not here. Not ever." "This is unbelievable," Nathan said. "You act like you run everything." "I do," I reminded him. A couple from the next table glanced over. A mother with 2 young children pulled them closer, uneasy with the tension. I could feel eyes gathering. Pressure builds an audience. Claire approached then, hesitant but determined. Her steps were small at first, but they grew firmer the closer she came. "Nathan," she said, "stop yelling at him." He looked at her as though she had betrayed him twice now. "You are taking her side again." "There is no side," she said, "just decency." "You have changed," he said coldly. "No," she replied. "I have just stopped shrinking." The entire table went silent. Leo swallowed, grateful but unsure. I placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Go back to the kitchen, Leo. I will handle this." He nodded and slipped away. I turned back to the Coopers. "This is dinner, not a battlefield. You may stay if you behave. If not, you are welcome to take your food to your room." Nathan clenched his jaw but remained silent. Claire met my eyes, a tiny spark of courage rising in hers, the kind of courage I had been waiting years to see. I returned to our table. Rosa signaled a quiet thumbs up from across the terrace. The staff relaxed. The air loosened again. Claire sat down slowly. "I did not know I could do that." "You always could," I said. "You just needed proof that you were allowed." She breathed out, a long, steady release, like letting go of years she had been holding wrong. We finished our meal in a calmer rhythm. The evening breeze softened. Laughter returned to the terrace little by little. When the plates were cleared, Claire reached across the table and took my hand. "Mom," she said, "after tonight, I know one thing for sure. I want to rebuild our relationship, but I also want to rebuild myself." I squeezed her hand. "Then you are already on your way." Over her shoulder, I saw Nathan glaring at us with a mix of confusion and fear. Not fear of me. Fear of losing the one person he controlled without realizing he was doing it. Pressure reveals truth. Tonight had revealed plenty, and the storm ahead was only beginning. I barely slept that night, not because of fear, but because of clarity. Some nights settle your heart, Others sharpen it. This one sharpened mine. I sat on the balcony of my villa before sunrise nursing a mug of black tea. The waves rolled in slow, rhythmic breaths. A fisherman's small boat drifted in the distance. Life continued outside my family's chaos, and for once that steadied me. In my pocket, I felt the small motel key, the same one I'd used 20 years ago when I was rebuilding my life after the divorce. A tiny brass thing with the number 12 engraved. The edges had softened from wear. Every time my thumb brushed against it, it reminded me that survival didn't always look dignified. Sometimes it looked like a dim motel room, a cheap lamp, and an exhausted woman figuring out how to start again. Now that same key sat in my pocket like an anchor, a reminder, a promise. At 6:45 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Rosa. Rosa, Mrs. Marsh Security, just informed me. "Mr. Cooper is heading toward your private office." I exhaled. I suspected he would. "Rosa, do you want us to stop him?" "No," I said. "Let him walk in." I finished my tea, pocketed the key, and headed downstairs. My private office, a modest space behind the reception, wasn't something guests ever noticed. Just a quiet room with a desk, a painting of another porcelain plate repaired with gold, and shelves of neatly labeled binders. Nothing luxurious, only functional. When I pushed the door open, Nathan was already inside. He stood before my desk, rifling through papers he had absolutely no business touching. When he heard the door, he straightened stiffly, pretending he wasn't doing exactly what he'd been doing. "You shouldn't be in here," I said calmly. He forced a smile. Door was open. It was not, I corrected. "You picked the lock." He flinched. Just a fraction. But I caught it. "I wanted to talk," he said quickly. "That's all. Then you could have knocked." He ignored that. "Listen," he began. "I talked to Claire last night. She's confused, emotional. She doesn't mean half the things she says when she's upset." I walked to the desk, not rushing, not panicking, just observing. "You mean the things she said while standing up for herself?" He swallowed. "Claire isn't. She's not the type to handle pressure, okay? She panics. She makes things bigger than they are. Like the way you made a service charge into a personal attack," I asked. He reddened. I was frustrated. "You were disrespectful," I said, "to a 19-year-old boy earning his first paycheck." Nathan's jaw tightened. Then he changed tactics. "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe there's a way to fix this." He stepped closer. "And what would fixing this look like?" I asked. He hesitated, then said the line I'd been waiting for. "We all know Claire is financially fragile. You've been supporting her for years. What happens to her if you decide to pull away?" There it was, the real motive, the quiet threat wrapped in concern. I let the silence stretch before answering. "Nathan." I said, "For someone who prides himself on reading people, you understand me very poorly." His eyebrows tightened. "Meaning?" "Meaning? I don't respond to pressure. Not yours, not anyone's." He scoffed. "You're acting like you're untouchable just because you own a hotel. I'm acting like someone who has seen men twice your size crumble under half the arrogance." His eyes flashed. "You think you're smart," he said, "but you don't know what's happening in Claire's head. You don't know what she says to me." I smiled. "On the contrary, I know exactly what she's been saying to you instead of speaking for herself." He blinked. "She's afraid," I continued. "Not of me, of upsetting you." He opened his mouth to argue, but footsteps approached. Rosa gently knocked and peeked inside. "Mrs. Marsh, sorry to interrupt. The morning briefing is ready." "Thank you," I said. "I'll be right there." Nathan stood still, unsure if he'd won or lost. "And Nathan," I added before leaving, "don't enter this office again without permission. The next time security will take it seriously." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. His fear spoke louder than his mouth. Breakfast with Claire. Claire was waiting for me at the Garden Cafe. She looked different this morning. Tired, yes, but calmer. Like someone who'd set down a heavy bag. "Mom," she said, I need to tell you something." I sat across from her. "Take your time." Last night after dinner, Claire said Nathan told me that you hate him, that you're trying to break us apart, that you're manipulating everything. I nodded. I expected that. He said you're using your money to create distance. And what did you say? Claire's eyes glistened. I said, I'm tired of choosing between peace and truth. A quiet victory stirred in my chest. I'm proud of you, I said. She took a shaky breath. Mom, can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. Always. Are you planning to cut me off financially? I leaned forward. Claire, sweetheart, what makes you think I ever would? She wiped her cheek. Because I overheard Nathan on the phone this morning. He said something like, if she pulls back support, you're done. And when I asked who he was talking about, he said it was a business call. Of course he did. I placed my hand over hers. Claire, I said quietly, my support for you isn't money. It never has been. It's stability. It's protection. It's options. Those aren't things anyone can take from you, not even your husband. Then why do I feel so small sometimes? Because someone benefits when you stay small. Her lips trembled. But Claire, I continued, the difference now is simple. You're starting to see it. The morning incident. Just when breakfast seemed peaceful, Jamal rushed toward us. Mrs. Marsh, sorry, but there's a situation in the pool area. I stood. What happened? He hesitated. Mr. Cooper and a guest had an argument. A loud one. Something about a chair reservation. I closed my eyes. Of course. Things are warming up, Jamal warned. I think you should see this. I'm coming. Claire rose, worried. Mom let me go with you. No, I said gently. Finish your breakfast, but I'll be fine. And this is something he needs to face without you absorbing it. She reluctantly sat. I walked with Jamal toward the pool. Before we even turned the corner, I heard Nathan's voice, rising, sharp, embarrassed, desperate. You can't just take a chair I already claimed. A middle-aged man in a sun hat stood his ground calmly. Sir, I've been here since 8. The chair wasn't marked. It was marked, Nathan snapped. My towel was on it. Your towel was on the ground, the man replied. The wind knocked it off. You calling me a liar, I stepped between them. Nathan, I said evenly, this man is correct. I saw the towel myself. You weren't even here. You're right, I said softly. And yet somehow I still know. His face went beet red, the kind of color that makes veins stand out at the temples. You're humiliating me. No, I said. You're humiliating yourself. I'm simply narrating. A couple on the nearest loungers froze mid-sip. Even the children in the shallow end went quiet, watching the man who thought the world owed him a chair. A couple nearby chuckled despite themselves. He shot them a glare. That's it, he hissed. I'm done with this place. You've been done since you arrived, I said. His breathing quickened anger, replacing logic. You think Claire will choose you, he demanded. She's my wife. I didn't flinch. And yet I said she is sitting there right now eating breakfast without crying. That's new. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He had no rebuttal. This resort, I continued, hosts hundreds of guests a week. People with stress, with grief, with children, with problems far heavier than yours. Not once has anyone created this much chaos in 48 hours. He blinked, stunned. You are not the storm, I said. You are the wind pretending to be thunder. Jamal had to look away to hide a smile. Nathan grabbed his sandals, muttering something under his breath, and stormed off toward the villa walkway. I exhaled slowly. The storm was cracking open. But the real break wasn't his anger. It was Claire's awakening. A glimpse of the road ahead. As I walked back to the cafe, I felt the motel key in my pocket again. 20 years ago, that key was all I had. Now it was a reminder that a woman who once rebuilt herself from nothing does not fear the collapse of anything. When Claire saw me returning, she stood up anxious. Mom. What happened? I gave her a small, steady smile. Nothing that we can't handle. Her eyes softened, and for the first time in years, She truly believed me. By late afternoon, the heat began to ease. A soft shade settled over the resort as the sun dipped behind the palms. Guests drifted between the pool, the garden walkway, and the lounge bar. Everything looked peaceful. But beneath that surface, the Cooper situation was unraveling like a seam pulled too tight. I spent the early part of the afternoon reviewing staff reports, walking the property, and making a few quiet decisions. Running a hotel is not about luxury. It is about anticipating human nature. A resort reveals people, their patience, their gratitude, their faults. The Coopers had been revealing themselves faster than most. By 5 o'clock, I headed to the art courtyard to clear my head. The courtyard was my favorite place on the property. White stone floor, calm fountain, and a long display wall where local artists rotated pieces throughout the year. I stood in front of a new piece mounted just that morning, another porcelain plate. This one was different, broken into 5 pieces, then mended with wide golden seams that looked like sunlight cutting across a cracked horizon. I traced the design with my eyes, feeling something settle inside me. A voice behind me said, "You like that one too?" It was Eugene, our longtime maintenance supervisor, gray-haired, gentle, steady. Eugene had been with the resort since the beginning. He was the kind of man who fixed pipes, repaired roof tiles, and somehow also repaired people without realizing it. "I do," I said. "It reminds me that breaking isn't the end." He nodded. "You look like someone carrying more weight than usual." I smiled faintly. "You always say that." "And I'm always right," he replied. Eugene never pried. He simply stood beside me, hands clasped behind his back, waiting for me to speak if I wanted to, the kind of presence that made silence feel safe. After a long moment, I said, "Trouble at the resort usually comes in waves. This one feels personal." He glanced toward the villas, the guests with the loud son-in-law. "Yes. Want me to keep a closer eye?" "No," I said. "This is something I need to handle myself." Eugene nodded. "Then handle it. You've faced bigger storms." I touched the motel key in my pocket. "Yes, I have." A shift in Claire. When I returned to the lobby, Claire was waiting near the seating area, wringing her hands. Her expression told me she'd been standing there a while. "Mom," she said, "can we talk somewhere private?" Of course. We stepped into the quiet reading room by the garden's soft chairs, tall windows, the faint smell of eucalyptus. Claire sat across from me, but didn't speak immediately. Her fingers traced the seam on her dress. Finally, she said, "I'm scared of what I'm about to say." I leaned forward. "You don't have to be scared around me." She inhaled. "Mom, I don't think I can keep doing this." With Nathan, she nodded, eyes wet. He's always on edge, always angry, always needing me to fix things. And every time I try to stand up for myself, he pushes back harder. My voice stayed calm. "Has he hurt you?" "No, not physically, but he makes me feel small, like I can't breathe if he's upset." Her words came out in broken pieces. "He makes me feel small, like I can't breathe if he's upset." The way her shoulders curled in on themselves told me the rest. It was the kind of shrinking you do so often your body forgets how to stand tall. And last night, she said after dinner, he told me he felt disrespected, that I embarrassed him, that I was choosing you over him. I gazed at her gently. "And what did you say?" Claire shook her head. "Nothing. That's the problem." Her voice cracked. "I didn't say anything, Mom. I froze. I always freeze. And then I hate myself for it." I moved to the chair next to hers, placing a steady hand on her back. "Claire," I said softly, "all freezing means is that your body hasn't learned safety yet, but you're learning now. You spoke up at dinner. You spoke up to me. That's the beginning." She wiped her cheek. "Mom, I want to stay with you tonight, in your villa, just for one night." Her request landed heavy with honesty. "Of course you can," I said. "You never have to ask permission to be safe. Claire folded into my arm's shoulders, trembling in relief. That moment alone made every confrontation worth it. The Coopers react, but peace in one corner often signals a storm in another. At 7:20 p.m., as the sky turned purple, I received a message from the concierge, Mrs. Marsh. The Coopers are in the lobby demanding to speak to management. Of course they were. I walked there calmly, Claire beside me, but keeping a step behind. Nathan was pacing the marble floor like a man rehearsing anger. Gloria sat on a couch, arms crossed, fuming like a tea kettle. Gordon rubbed his temples, exhausted by his own family. When they saw me, Nathan barked, "We need a different room." I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because Gloria snapped the room next to ours has a couple arguing at night and we can't sleep. I blinked slowly. The room next to yours is empty. Gloria froze. Nathan recovered quickly. Fine. Then the walls are thin. We heard something. You heard your own voices, I said. Gordon looked down, confirming my suspicion. Nathan stepped forward. Look, we're guests. You owe us proper treatment. I owe you fairness, I corrected, and you have been given exactly that. Are you calling us liars? Gloria gasped. No, I said simply. I'm calling you overwhelmed. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Gloria hissed, I want a refund. No, I said. Her jaw dropped. Excuse me. No refund, I repeated. You've used the facilities. You've eaten breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You've occupied a villa. You've used housekeeping services. And you've caused significant disruption to both guests and staff. Nathan sputtered. This is illegal. It is policy, I said calmly, and it is final. Claire flinched slightly at his rising anger, and I placed a hand on her arm, steady grounding. Nathan pointed at me. You can't treat us like this. You're abusing your power. I met his eyes without blinking. No, this is me finally using it. Silence fell, heavy, uncomfortable. Gordon cleared his throat softly. Maybe we should cool off. Nathan snapped, Dad, stay out of this. And then something unexpected happened. Gordon looked up with a tiredness so deep it silenced the room. No, he said firmly. I've stayed out of things too long. Nathan stared. Gloria blinked. Claire froze. Gordon continued, voice steady. Son, you've been hostile since we arrived. This place isn't the problem. The staff isn't the problem. The chairs, the towels, the rooms, they're not the problem. He paused. You are. The lobby went silent enough to hear the air conditioning hum. Nathan's face twisted. You're taking their side, Gordon exhaled. I'm taking the side of reality. I watched Nathan carefully. Men like him don't break cleanly. They crack slowly, loudly, dangerously. I'm done, Nathan said. We're leaving tomorrow. I tilted my head. Tomorrow is perfect. He glared. We'll be gone before breakfast. Even better, I replied. Gloria sputtered. This is unbelievable, yes, I said. And yet here we are. Nathan stormed toward the exit. Gordon followed quietly. Gloria stomped behind them. Only Claire remained. She looked at the door where her husband disappeared. She looked at me. Then she whispered the question I had been waiting years to hear, Mom. What happens now? I touched the motel key in my pocket. The answer was already forming. Now I said gently, we take back your life, one step at a time. And for the first time, she didn't look afraid. She looked ready. Morning storms are dramatic, but the storms that rise quietly at night, those are the ones that change lives. By the time darkness settled over the resort, the corridors felt sharper somehow. The lights seemed a little too bright, the air conditioning a little too loud, as if the building itself was waiting to see what we would do next. The sky was clear, the palm leaves barely moved, and yet something in the stillness rang hollow. At 8:40 p.m., after dinner with Claire in my villa, she curled up on the sofa with a blanket knees tucked under her chin. She looked younger this way, soft, fragile, yearning for safety she hadn't felt in years. Mom, she said, can we leave the lights on tonight? Yes, I said. Every one of them, if you want. She managed a tired smile. I stepped onto the balcony with my tea. The ocean was a dark mirror, black and shimmering like it knew secrets I didn't. I pulled the motel key from my pocket, turning it between my fingers. It had lived through nights like this, nights when decisions came to collect their price. Inside, I heard Claire shifting on the couch, not in fear this time, just in thought. Healing often begins in the pauses. Then came the knock. Not loud, not hesitant, but purposeful. 3 slow taps. Claire sat up. Mom. Who is that I already knew? Nathan. Of course it was Nathan. I motioned Claire to stay back. Let me see. She nodded reluctantly. I opened the door only halfway. Nathan stood there, face flushed from anger or desperation, maybe both. His shirt was wrinkled, hair messy, as if he'd been pacing for hours. Behind him, the walkway lights cast long shadows that made him look taller, sharper, more dangerous. We need to talk, he said. No, I replied. You need to leave. He pushed his hand against the door, not forcing it but asserting presence. Claire needs to talk to me, he insisted. I met his eyes coldly. Then she'll talk when she decides, not when you demand it. He inhaled sharply. You're manipulating her. No, I said. I'm unbuilding the manipulation you spent years constructing. His jaw clenched. For the first time, he looked scared. Please, he said, lowering his voice. I can't lose her. Behind me, Claire whispered, Mom. I'll talk to him. I turned. You don't have to. I need to say something, she whispered. I hesitated, then nodded and opened the door wider. Claire stepped out beside me, not behind, not shrinking, but standing almost at my height. Nathan's eyes softened the moment he saw her, but Claire didn't flinch. Nathan, she began quietly, I'm staying here tonight. His expression collapsed into disbelief. After everything I said, after everything we built, especially after everything you said, she replied. His mouth opened, then closed as if the words couldn't form. She continued, I'm tired of fixing you while you break everything else. Those words felt like truth, finally waking up. Nathan looked at me for rescue like I could undo what Claire had just admitted, but I stayed silent. Claire needed this. He swallowed hard. So what? You're leaving me. I'm choosing myself, she said, her voice trembling but sure. And maybe choosing myself means stepping away from you. For now. For now, he repeated bitterly. Claire nodded. I'll talk to you tomorrow. After you... Calm down. Nathan ran a hand through his hair aggressively. I am calm. She looked at him sadly. You haven't been calm since the day we arrived. Nathan's face twisted a mixture of fear, pride, and the first hint of recognition. I want to go home. You can, Claire replied. Tomorrow. I'll decide my next step after that. The word stunned him more than shouting ever could. Then he said something I did not expect. I'm scared, Claire. Her face softened but didn't melt. Then get help. Not from me. From someone who can help you unlearn this anger. He blinked hard, then whispered, I don't know how. You can start, she said gently by letting me breathe. He didn't speak after that. He just stepped back slowly, then turned and walked away without looking back. When the door closed behind us, Claire collapsed into my arms, shaking not from fear, but from release. I held her steady as stone. You did well, I whispered into her hair. I feel sick, she said. Bravery often looks like sickness before it looks like strength. The call later that night, close to 11, when the resort had quieted. My phone rang. The caller ID made my stomach tighten. Gordon, Nathan's father. I answered softly. Hello. His voice was low and worn. Mrs. Marsh? Are you awake? Yes, is everything all right? A long pause. No, he said, it isn't. I felt Claire stiffen next to me. What happened? I asked. He's gone. Gone where left the villa. Said he needed air. I thought he went to the gym. But he's not there. And he's not answering his phone. My breath steadied into something sharp. When did you last see him? "An hour ago," Gordon whispered. "He said he needed to think." I believed him. I shouldn't have. I closed my eyes. This was the moment I'd anticipated. The moment when ego became panic, when trying to control everything became losing control of oneself. "Do you think he's dangerous?" Gordon asked, voice trembling. "Yes," I said truthfully. "Not to others. To himself." Claire covered her mouth, horrified. "Mom," I held her hand. "Claire, we need to stay calm." Gordon exhaled shakily. "What should I do? Stay in your villa?" I said. "I'll handle this." "You?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I know where he is. Because angry men seek isolation, but frightened men seek water, the ocean." I handed Claire her jacket. "Come with me, but stay close." She nodded, trembling. We stepped into the night air, the kind of night that holds its breath. The ocean called in steady, dark murmurs. The resort was silent except for distant footsteps of security beginning to search. We reached the wooden boardwalk overlooking the beach, and there, silhouetted against the moonlit water, stood Nathan, alone, barefoot, staring at the waves like he was asking them something. Claire's breath hitched. "Mom." I know I whispered. "The breaking point." We walked toward him slowly. Sand shifted under our feet. The tide licked the shore gently as if unwilling to interrupt. When Nathan heard the footsteps, he didn't turn. He just said, "I'm not a bad person." The words cracked in the middle, raw and unguarded. Claire stepped closer. "Nathan." He shook his head. "I don't know why I get this way. I don't know why everything feels like an attack, why I turn everything into a battle." He finally looked at me. "I saw you two together," he said. "The way she looked at you, like she trusted you more than me. It made something inside me." He searched for the word, break. I held the motel key tightly in my fist. "Nathan," I said, "broken isn't the same as cruel, but if you ignore the break long enough, it becomes cruelty." He stared at the water. "I don't want to lose her." "Then let her breathe," I said. "Let her choose." He closed his eyes, tears glinting. "I'm sorry," he whispered to Claire, not to me. Claire stepped toward him but stopped halfway. "Nathan, I want you to get help, and I'm willing to talk, but I won't drown with you." His shoulders slumped. His shoulders dropped in a way I had never seen before, as if some invisible armor had slipped off onto the sand. The man who always argued, always pushed, suddenly looked like a boy who finally understood that control and pride had never kept him safe. He whispered, "Okay," not loud, but real. As we walked him back toward the resort, Claire slipped her hand into mine. "Mom," she said softly, "thank you for standing beside me." I squeezed her fingers. "This," I said, "is only the beginning. Healing is a long road." She nodded. "I'm ready." And under the moonlight, for the first time since they arrived, all three of us walked, not in anger, not in chaos, but in something that almost looked like hope. I drifted in and out of shallow sleep, more aware of the ticking clock on the wall than the sound of the waves. It wasn't fear that kept my eyes open. It was the clear, sharp knowing that after this week, none of us would be able to go back to pretending. Nathan was safe in his villa with Gordon. Claire had fallen asleep on the sofa, exhaustion wrapping around her like a blanket she'd carried since childhood. I watched her breathe slow and steady, and for the first time in months, maybe years, her face looked peaceful. That alone made the night worth it. But peace never comes without a price. And mine arrived at sunrise. I stepped onto the balcony with a cup of strong coffee. The sea was calm again, soft waves pressing against the sand like a creature breathing in its sleep. I held the motel key between my fingers, rubbing the worn metal with my thumb, a reflex I'd developed on nights when survival meant staying awake. That key had been my beginning. It would also guide me to the end of this chapter. Inside, Claire began to stir. "Mom," she called. "I'm here." She walked out with a blanket draped over her shoulders, hair a mess, eyes swollen but clear. "I can't believe yesterday happened," she whispered. "You handled it," I said. "That matters." She sighed, leaning her head on my shoulder. "What happens now?" The question hung in the morning air. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed a message from Amanda. "Mrs. Marsh, urgent. Call me when you can. Urgent. At 6:15 a.m. That wasn't normal. I stepped aside and dialed. "Morning, Amanda. Mrs. Marsh." She said, voice tight-low, the way people speak when they're trying not to panic. "I need you at the office. It's important. What happened?" "A report. About last night. From another guest." My fingers tightened around the motel key. "What sort of report? A disturbance on the beach. Voices raised. Someone cried. They wrote an official complaint. Naming you." I closed my eyes. Of course they did. They also flagged the Cooper party, she added. Gordon tried to explain, but the guest already emailed corporate. "They want written statements. That is the problem with healing. It is loud before it becomes quiet." "I'll be right there," I said. I hung up and turned to Claire. "Stay here for now. I need to go downstairs." She frowned. "Because of last night? Because people fear what they don't understand," I said. "And fear sends emails." She stepped forward. "Mom, I can come." "No," I said gently. "Let me handle this." I kissed her forehead before grabbing my sandals. Amanda already had the file open when I walked into my office. The blinds were half-drawn sunlight slicing across the desk. "Here," she said, sliding a printed email toward me. I read it slowly. A middle-aged couple from New Jersey staying 2 villas down from Nathan's. They described voices on the beach, after hours a distressed man walking near the water, a second woman approaching him, and a third woman appearing shortly after. Then the final line. "We felt unsafe with the involvement of the resort owner." There it was. Fear, projection, assumption, classic. Mrs. Marsh Amanda said carefully, "I know they didn't understand what was happening, but corporate will ask why the owner of a resort was involved in what looked like a guest conflict at 10 p.m. I nodded. "I'll speak with them myself. No defensive tone. Just facts." Amanda exhaled in relief. "Thank you." She hesitated. "There's more." "Of course there is," I murmured. "This morning, Nathan asked to meet with you." I froze. "What for?" "He didn't say," she replied, "but his father looks worried. Really worried." I drummed the motel key on the desk, the metallic tap steady and deliberate. "Schedule it for noon," I said. "In the cafe, public, with staff within sight." "I already arranged the seating," Amanda said softly. "I figured you'd want safety. That woman deserved a raise." A father-in-law with news. I left the office to grab water from the lobby. Before I reached the counter, someone stepped into my path. Gordon. His eyes were bloodshot skin, pale under the morning light. "Mrs. Marsh," he said, voice strained. "We need to talk." I guided him to a nearby bench. "What happened? Is Nathan stable?" "He's not drinking," Gordon said quickly. "He's not angry. He's quiet. Quiet could mean calm or collapse." I waited for him to continue. "He told me he wants to speak to you before speaking to Claire again," he said. "He says he has something he needs to confess." My grip on the motel key tightened. Confess what I asked. Gordon shook his head. He wouldn't tell me. Then he added something that chilled me more than the night waves. He asked me whether I think Claire would forgive him, really forgive him. Then he cried. Nathan crying wasn't new. Nathan crying with remorse was. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. Just Gordon swallowed. "Don't push him. He's fragile. Last night scared him. It scared all of us." I touched his arm gently. "I'll talk to him." He exhaled shakily. "Thank you. Despite everything, thank you." Noon, the cafe meeting. Nathan arrived exactly at 12, punctual in that rigid way people have when they're trying not to fall apart. He sat across from me at the small patio table overlooking the ocean. He looked smaller today, like his anger had been removed and left only bone. His hands shook when he lifted his glass of water. "Thank you for meeting me," he murmured. "You asked," I said. "I came." He took a long breath. "I need to say something I should have said years ago." I waited. "I know I hurt Claire," he began, "and I know last night showed all of you how broken I am. But I want you to understand something. I wasn't born this way." His voice cracked. "My mother." He paused. "She wasn't like you." I felt the words settle heavy between us. "She used fear," he continued quietly. "Fear to keep me obedient. Fear to keep me quiet. Fear to keep me near." I said nothing. And when Claire loved me, he whispered, I didn't know how to be anything but afraid. Afraid of losing her. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid of being left like my mother left me emotionally for years. His knuckles turned white. "So when she loved you, your steadiness, your calm, I panicked. I mistook stability for competition. I mistook your presence for threat." He wiped his face with his sleeve, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. This was the thing about adulthood nobody warns you about. Sometimes your child's partner is also a wounded child." "Nathan," I said softly, "fear doesn't justify harm, but it explains why healing must begin with honesty." He nodded, shoulders trembling. "I want help," he whispered. "Real help." That was the sentence I had been waiting for, not from his mouth, from his heart. "I'll support whatever Claire decides," I said, "and I'll support your healing as long as you take responsibility." He nodded again, a real nod this time. Then his expression changed just slightly. "There's one more thing," he said. "Something I need to tell Claire. Something I should have said months ago." "What is it?" He looked out at the sea eyes dark with truth. "It's about the money," he said. "About the loan I told her didn't go through." My stomach tightened. "What loan?" He swallowed. "The one she thinks was for our business," he whispered, "but it wasn't." He didn't finish. Because at that moment, Claire arrived. Her eyes moved between us, searching. "Mom, Nathan." "What's happening?" Nathan stood slowly, breathing uneven. "Claire," he whispered, "I need to tell you the truth. All of it." Claire stiffened. "About the loan," he added. Those 5 words cracked the air like lightning. The cafe fell silent. Even the waves paused. "Loan," she said, voice thin. "What loan?" Nathan closed his eyes, breaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." I stepped toward Claire, but she lifted her hand. "Mom." "Let him speak." Her voice was shaking but steady. Nathan opened his mouth, and everything was about to fall apart. There is a silence that only comes before a confession, a silence that feels like the air is holding its breath. That silence filled the cafe as Nathan stood trembling in front of Claire. She didn't blink. She didn't step back. She simply said, "What loan, Nathan?" He swallowed, hard eyes darting between her face and the ocean behind us. His chest rose and fell too quickly, like panic was dragging air out of him. "I lied," he whispered, about what Claire asked. "The business loan." Claire frowned. "You said the bank declined us." "They didn't," he said. "It was approved." My entire spine went cold, and I took it. The words hit the table like a hammer. Claire blinked slowly as if the sentence arrived in pieces. "You took it," she repeated. "Then where is it? Where did the money go?" "Tell me exactly." Nathan's jaw tightened. "I used it." "For what?" He squeezed his hands together. "To pay off debt." "What debt?" she asked. "My debt." Claire stared at him, breath frozen. "Nathan." She said carefully what debt could possibly require a $45,000 loan. My heart thudded at the number. 45,000, a sum that could change a life or destroy one. Nathan wiped his face. It wasn't one debt. It was several. "What kind?" she said. He hesitated. "Credit cards," he answered. "Medical bills. Some personal loans. And something else." "Something else?" Claire asked softly. Nathan wouldn't look at her when he said the next word. "Gambling." The cafe fell absolutely silent. Claire closed her eyes as if steadying herself against a wave, How long? She whispered. 3 years. She opened her eyes again, stunned. We've only been married 2 years. I started before we got married, he said. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. And you hid it from me, Claire said. All of it. Nathan nodded miserably. And you used our business loan to pay off losses, she whispered, and then told me the bank rejected us. He nodded again. Claire covered her mouth, fighting a sob. Nathan, she said, voice cracking, we postponed opening our firm because of that loan. I quit my job to help you. I trusted your word. I know, he whispered, and I hated myself every day, but not enough to stop, she said. The color drained from his face. I finally stepped forward. Nathan, you need to tell her everything, not pieces. Everything. He looked at me with eyes that begged for mercy, but mercy without truth is poison. I wasn't going to let Claire swallow poison today. Nathan inhaled shakily. There's more, he said. Claire backed up half a step. Then say it. I took out another loan, he whispered. My chest tightened. Another? Claire asked. Yes, Nathan said, voice barely audible. This one in my name only. 28,000. Claire froze entirely. The tourists near us seemed to fade. The waves muted themselves. Even the wind paused. 28,000, she repeated slowly. Nathan, what have you done I couldn't stop? He said. I kept thinking one big win would fix everything. Then I wouldn't have to tell you. She pressed her palm against her forehead, staggering slightly. I watched you fall apart for months, she whispered. I thought it was stress. I thought it was me. I thought I wasn't supporting you enough, and you were gambling away loans we didn't even have. He sank into his chair, breaking in front of us. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I was ashamed. Claire's voice turned sharper. No, she said. Shame comes after the damage. You made choices. Repeatedly. Nathan covered his face. His shoulders shook. I let him cry for a few seconds. Then I said the sentence I'd been holding. Nathan, you must tell her the rest. He froze. The rest. The part he didn't want to say. The part that would finally shatter what remained. Claire looked at me sharply. Mom! There's more. Nathan's voice broke. Please. No, Claire said bitterly. No more hiding. Nathan drew a long breath that sounded like surrender. Some of the debt, he whispered, was in Claire's name. Claire's head snapped up. What? He clutched the sides of the chair. I applied for a credit card using your information. I forged your signature. Every muscle in Claire's body tensed. You used my name, she whispered. My credit, without telling me. Yes, he cried. I was desperate. That isn't desperation, she said, trembling with rage. That's fraud. He collapsed forward, crying hard. I know, I'm sorry. Claire stood there, trembling eyes glassy but furious. Nathan, she said softly, you didn't just break trust, you broke the law. He nodded, sobbing. I felt my own pulse steady into something sharp. This was the inevitable collapse. The kind that destroys a marriage or rebuilds a person, but not both. The public unraveling people in the cafe were staring openly now. Whispers were starting. A couple pulled out their phones, pretending to check messages while really recording. I stepped closer, voice low. Turn off your phones, I said to the nearby tables. This is a private matter. The firmness in my tone startled them. Several lowered their devices. One woman flushed and put her phone away immediately. Nathan sobbed again. I never meant to hurt you, Claire. She stared at him with a hollow, wounded expression. You didn't mean it, she said quietly. But you did. He shook his head violently. I'll pay it back. All of it. I'll fix it. You can't fix this, she said. You can only face it. He covered his face again. Claire turned to me then. Mom. What do I do? I swallowed hard. This was the moment I'd been preparing her for, not to abandon, not to rescue, but to choose her path consciously. You breathe, I said. You take one step, then another. She wiped her tears with a shaking hand. I can't believe this is my life. It won't always be, I said softly. She sobbed once, then stopped abruptly like something inside her clicked. Resolve. A clean line drawn inside the heart. "I need space," she said, turning to Nathan. "I need time. And I need the truth in writing." Nathan sobbed harder. "Please don't leave me," Claire whispered. "Leaving isn't punishment, it's survival." He looked like she had punched the breath out of him. The motel key returns. Claire stepped beside me, her hand slipping into mine. "Mom," she whispered, "take me away from here for a while." I nodded gently. Nathan cried out, "Claire, please." But she didn't look back. I squeezed her hand and led her out of the cafe. As we stepped outside, I felt the motel key in my pocket press against my thigh. A reminder. Escape isn't cowardice. Sometimes it's the only way back to yourself. We walked toward the elevator. Claire leaned her head on my shoulder. "Mom," she said. Voice trembling, "Everything is broken." I wrapped an arm around her. "Good," I whispered. "Now we get to rebuild." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and just as we stepped inside, Claire said, "I want to go back home." I nodded. "I know." But the storm wasn't done. It was only gathering strength, and tomorrow morning, everything would explode in a way none of us expected. Some mornings feel ordinary. This one did not. When I opened my eyes, I knew the day would end differently than it began. Not with shouting, not with chaos, but with choices. Clear, cold, irreversible choices. Claire was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed like a woman preparing for war. Her hair was tied back her face, bare, her breath steady yet thin. It was the way people breathe before they walk into their futures. "Mom," she said quietly, "I want to handle this today. All of it." I nodded. "You will. And I'll stand next to you." She gave a faint, grateful smile. I reached into the side drawer and felt the smooth edge of something familiar, the porcelain plate fragment I had wrapped in a napkin. Broken, but still beautiful. "Take this," I said, placing it in her palm. She frowned softly. "The plate from home. It broke, but I never threw it away. Because broken does not mean useless, it means change is possible." She held the fragment like it was warm. Then she stood. "Let's finish this. By 9 a.m. We were seated in my office. The blinds were up, sunlight pouring across the table. I asked Amanda to join us. She sat with a notebook, open posture, attentive and protective. At 9:07, Gordon and Nathan walked in. Nathan looked hollow, like he had spent the night drowning in truths he could no longer avoid. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. His eyes were swollen in a way I had seen before in people who finally reached the bottom. "Claire," he whispered, "thank you for meeting me." "I didn't come for comfort," she replied. "I came for clarity." He nodded, swallowing hard. The silence settled like a third person in the room. Claire placed the porcelain fragment on the table between them. Nathan stared at it. "What is that us Claire said? Our marriage. Beautiful once, broken now, and whether it stays broken or becomes something else depends entirely on truth and accountability." His breath trembled. "Tell me everything she said, and then we move forward." Nathan opened the folder he brought. Dozens of pages inside. Bank statements, credit card applications, debt totals. He pushed them across the table. "This is all of it," he said. "Every loan. Every account. Every signature I forged. I spent all night gathering it." Claire stared at the papers but didn't touch them yet. Read the totals aloud, she said calmly. Nathan's throat tightened. He began reading. 45,000, 28,000, 12,600, 4,900, 8,300. Gordon covered his face. Amanda inhaled sharply but stayed silent. I watched Claire's expression. It didn't crumble. It didn't shake. It solidified. "Thank you for the honesty," she said. Nathan looked confused. "That's it?" "No," Claire replied. "Now we talk about consequences." He nodded slowly. "I'm ready." She leaned forward. You committed fraud using my name. You took out credit in my identity. You lied about a business loan. You sabotaged our future and hid it under shame. Nathan's lip quivered. I know. You will sign a written confession, she said. You will contact the bank and explain the forged signature. You will remove my name from any remaining accounts. You will allow me to freeze all joint finances until the investigation is complete. Nathan nodded quickly. Yes, anything. And you will begin therapy with a licensed addiction specialist within 48 hours. Yes, he whispered. Claire paused, inhaling deeply, and after that she added, we separate. Gordon's head jerked up. Nathan looked like she had struck him. Separate, Claire repeated firmly. Not divorce, not yet. But I will not stay with you until you can live without hiding behind me, without lying, without breaking both of us. Nathan broke into tears, shoulders shaking. Claire, I love you, he sobbed. I believe that she said. But love without honesty is just fear wearing a warm coat. His sobs grew louder. Even Gordon cried silently beside him. When Nathan finally quieted, Claire turned to me. Mom, she said softly, I want to go home today. To Phoenix. I need to breathe. I nodded. We'll leave this afternoon. But Nathan looked up sharply. There's something I need to tell you before you go. His tone changed, heavy, uneasy. Claire stiffened. Today, Nathan said someone from the bank might call you. What bank? Claire asked. The one that issued the forged credit line. Why would they call me Nathan? Took a deep breath. Because the account is past due. Claire froze. How past due? She asked. Nathan wiped his face. 3 months. Claire's pulse visibly jumped in her neck. And they sent a final notice yesterday, he added, to our home address. I felt her body go still like a deer hearing a snap in the woods. And Nathan whispered, voice cracking, they might be investigating it as identity misuse. They may ask you to confirm whether you knowingly applied. Claire stared at him in horror. Nathan, she said this could affect my credit for years. I know he said breaking again, and I am so sorry. I will fix it. I already contacted the fraud department this morning. He pulled out a paper. And they want to speak to you today. The room tightened around us, but then I felt something shift inside Claire, a quiet, grounded strength. She reached across the table and picked up the motel key from my hand. Mom, she said softly, may I borrow this? I nodded. She held it up between her fingers, letting the morning light hit the worn metal. This key saved you years ago, she said, and today it saves me. Because if you can rebuild from nothing but this, then so can I. She placed the key gently on the table in front of Nathan. This, she said, is your reminder. Rebuild. Not for me, for yourself. Nathan looked at the key like it was a sacred thing. Claire stood. I'm leaving, she said. You stay here. You deal with every piece of this paperwork. You attend therapy. And if you want any chance of us surviving this, you come to me not with promises, but with progress. Nathan nodded, sobbing quietly. Claire walked to the door, paused, and turned back one last time. And Nathan, she said, I hope you get better. Truly. But I won't lose myself trying to save you. He lowered his head in acceptance. Not defeat, acceptance. That afternoon, Claire and I boarded a flight home. As the plane lifted above the water, Claire leaned her head on my shoulder. Mom, she whispered, did I do the right thing? I kissed the top of her head. Yes, I said. You chose truth over fear. That is always the right thing. She sighed, eyes finally closing. Outside the window, the ocean shimmered under the sun, calm again after a storm that shook all of us. I reached into my handbag and felt the empty space where the motel key used to be. A symbol passed on, a circle closed, a new one beginning. Life rarely gives us perfect endings, but it gives us honest ones. And honesty, I have learned, is the first ingredient of healing. As the clouds opened wider beneath us, Claire whispered, "Mom, thank you for not letting me fall." I held her hand. "You never fell," I said gently. "You learned how to stand." And for the first time in a long time, both of us finally breathed without fear. I told them once calmly, "You wanted a vacation without me." And for a long time, I believed distance meant losing. But legacy doesn't disappear when you're excluded. Sometimes it begins there. That old porcelain plate, white gold-rimmed, chipped but unbroken in meaning, still matters tonight. That motel key, worn heavy with years, still opens doors, even doors people think are closed forever. Those small objects carried a big truth. Dignity survives, entitlement falls. I didn't raise my voice when the plan worked. I let the paperwork speak, let truth stand in the room like light. Because the strongest victories aren't loud, they're quiet, precise, signed in ink. Now, before we say goodbye, I need one thing from you. Tell me the city in your heart where your story begins. Not where you were excluded, where you chose to stand again. Love your chapters, respect your journey. Drop a comment, like, subscribe. Your legacy matters, your voice matters, and the next story might be yours.